Right, Harsh is here questioning the words in the PCA that about who was awake and things. And I just want to weigh in on some things that, well, not things that he's saying, but something regarding Dylan. So I'm just going to play so you can sort of get the gist of what's going on in what he's talking about.
Anyway, I digress. I'll get there. I'll get to the point in a second. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she...
Right, just going to stop right there. Why, when I first started watching this, I came in late to this. I know Harsh has been there from the beginning. I'm listening to his entire backlog because he's literally been there day by day. It's like a diary of the entire thing. So I recommend anybody who needs to catch up to just watch, just play his playlist of Idaho 4. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. You'll be able to see which one it is. But why? So when I first started getting interested in this, it was still at the point... No, it couldn't have been because it was after the PCA. But people were still... Oh no, I'll tell you why it was. It was because I was looking at Lana TNT's backlog. So I was watching what came before, and I was like, so for ages they were saying that Dylan was downstairs. Well, who put the information out that Dylan was downstairs? Because that's really, if that's law enforcement, that's pretty suspect that they changed the room that she was in. Because was it because they got, did they tell the truth because they got found out? Because it would be more convenient if she was downstairs because it would be harder to hear. But then did they have to change it? Because I know Lana, there was just photographs of her room, and her room was clearly the second floor room. So they couldn't, is it just because they couldn't keep it up? And was it them that said it in the first place? Why did people think that she was downstairs to begin with? I'd like to know. Continue, Harsh, please.
She was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. See, this is where I now start to have a problem, because she says, so she was asleep before 4 a.m. because she was woken at 4 a.m. But she's saying the others were asleep, or at least in their rooms, by approximately 4 a.m. So what time did she fall asleep then? And how, if she was asleep, did she know what the fuck was going on? Because she, in theory, would have fallen asleep before everybody else fell asleep. She woke up and at one point had said that she woke up and heard noises before she'd gone. She thought there was a party going on. She thought they had guests over. She's come out of her room, told people to shut up, so on and so forth.
But just picture, this is the thing, picture Dylan coming out of her room to tell people to shut up, right? Where are the people? When she comes out of her room, she goes into the living room, doesn't she? She goes into the lounge area. So where are the people? That's where people go if they're having a party. Either she heard noise outside, or they're having a party in people's bedrooms. That sounds highly unlikely to me. They're either in the living room, lounge, whatever you want to call it, having a party, or they're out on the patio having a party. Why would they be in each other's rooms having a party? I mean, that sounds... If that's the case, then these are different kinds of parties, I think. Or they've all fallen out, so they're all spending time in their rooms, and that... I don't think they'd do that anyway, because even if they'd all fallen out, they would, if it's the middle of the night, the other people are in bed, they'd go in the living room if there's nobody there. So I think that you have to actually visualise Dylan walking out of this room, out of her bedroom, and telling people to shut up. Because who's she telling it to? Like, what she's shouting upstairs? Because if you thought people were making a noise upstairs, you might think they were having sex. Are you just going to walk out your room and shout, shut up? I just think, did they have parties up there on the... I guess they were on the balcony that one day having people were out on the balcony, weren't they, that one day when there was that noise complaint. And where that one night rather, Xana came to the door in the end, in that cop shouts up to them on the balcony. So did they always party in Kaylee's room then? Is that the case? So, okay, it might make a bit more sense if that was the case, but to me, that was probably just they happened to be on the balcony that night. And I don't know if I'd buy her thinking it was a party, and I am inclined to think the same as what Harsh says later on, so I'll let you listen to him say it, and then I will vehemently agree.
She says then it was altered and we've got this dog situation. She thought it was Gonsalves playing with her dog upstairs. And I just find myself thinking, it's this whole...
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous. What? Nobody plays with their dog in the middle of the night. Who plays with their dog in the middle? I don't even play with my dog any of the time. I have seen Kaylee doing that dancing with her dog, and I reckon that's where they got the idea to say that from seeing her doing that. Like, she was just doing it for a video. I doubt she does that kind of thing all the time, and nobody wants to rouse their dog up in the middle of the night. Maybe if you're a bit drunk, but and was she coming back to get Kaylee? If Kaylee was leaving, which I really don't believe she was, and you'll see a video of why I'm not convinced about that at all. Although I can think of one reason that she might have been, and that's a different rabbit hole. What was she coming back to sort out the dog? And also, the other thing that I think, there was all that stuff, those clothes. So if she had moved out, if she was moving out, and people could see through the window, we could see through the window that there was stuff in her room. Well, what I think is that what happens when the person with the box room, when the person who's got the massive bedroom moves out, and what happens to the person? What do you think Maddie would do, who'd lived there the longest? Do you think she'd stay in that box room? She'd be straight into that bedroom, whether Kaylee's still got stuff there or not. She'd put Kaylee's stuff aside. I don't think she's backward in coming forwards, and they've known each other long enough to not have any issue with that sort of thing. Maddie would have moved her stuff aside, and there may have been some of Maddie's stuff still in the window, but maybe Maddie hadn't moved all her stuff into Kaylee's room. So either Kaylee's still there or Maddie's moved her stuff into that room, and in which case they might have been sleeping in that bed to begin with. They might have run out of that room because I think the person came in on the balcony. I think that somebody might have gone and opened that door when they were out so that they could get in when they come back. And I don't know how they wouldn't know there were two of them there, because they're a shit stalker if they didn't check that who was going to be there. So I don't know. I don't really buy the stalker thing very much, but I don't know. I think there's a possibility that they came in through on the balcony because they'd gone into the house. They'd found a way to enter the house. I don't know how. And maybe they told Dylan to open the door and that they were going to play I don't know. I don't know. But or maybe they didn't lock. Then maybe it was known that door was left open. But then they've got to know them to know that. Right, I'm going on speculating too much here, but what I think could have happened is that people were they were either one or both of them in the bed in what was Kaylee's room, and could have become Maddie's room, or could still have been Kaylee's room. And I'm not sure if they're both in it, but I think one ran out of that room into the other room. And you think the first thing you do is run down the stairs, but so either they didn't run down the stairs because they just became disoriented and were just so shocked and just ran, you just didn't think, or there was somebody coming up the stairs, so there was another person, so they couldn't run down the stairs, so they were trapped and she ended up in whoever was running out of that bedroom, whether it was Kaylee or Maddie or both of them. They both ended up in the box room. Or somebody had moved into that room and we don't know who it is, and there's another person, but that's might be going a step too far. So, yeah, anyway, let's listen to Harsh.
Just a lie. This reads to me like these people weren't even at this house. They're just kind of guessing what was going on.
That's another thing that I suspect, that they weren't there. I suspect they weren't there and they need a witness. And at the end of the day, her uncle's is he the prosecutor or something like that in Kootenai County? And her dad's, let's just check it, what's Stanley Morton's son? Stanley, hang on, Harsh. Coburger, go away. It won't X away. What's it doing? Stanley Morton's son. I'm spelled it wrong. I've only just noticed this in EN at the end. Search. I do hope I've got the microphone on. Hold on, that's him, isn't it? Yeah, he's a prosecutor of Kootenai County, but he used to work for the police. So he was previously served as Kootenai County Sheriff's Deputy for 8 years. So he's well in there. And so could he get his daughter to say she was there when she wasn't? Oh, it's much more of a tall order, though, to get both of them to say that, isn't it? I don't know. Could he? I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it?
And I don't know whether you guys get the same feeling. I look at it and I think to myself, how can...
The only other thing that I've thought is if it was actually Dylan who had a stalker, or Bethany, one of them who had the stalker, and they were deliberately not there that night, but then other people ended up getting killed. But it's still just crazy that a stalker would kill 4 people. But I have heard a stalker story. I'm going to put it into the description. And this guy threatened to kill. I think they do that. These stalker types threatened to kill everybody in her house. He didn't actually do it. He actually, but the police ended up like going and finding him, and he got all this ammunition on him. He got shitloads of. He got an arsenal. So I don't know, but yeah, seems like a 2-man job at least. I think. I don't know. I think it is. Otherwise, it's just it's a It's an outlier of a case.
Can someone be awake and know what was going on, so they can say what time people were in the rooms, what time they were asleep, but they themselves were apparently asleep because they got woken up at 4 a.m, which, to get woken up, you yourself must be asleep.
And yeah, sorry, to go back to the stalker thing, I didn't completely finish that. There's a reason that I thought this, but I can't really say what the reason is at the moment. But it's not a smoking gun reason. It's just something weird that came up. But where am I going with this? Let me... I've got two different theories going on here about her having a stalker. One was that, say, if it was really Bryan Kohberger, that she could identify him because he actually had been her stalker, and she was just shocked to see him in her house, and then she managed to get into the bedroom and she was just in total shock, and she just hadn't got her phone with her. I mean, she but then if she hadn't gone all the way to but she would have said she'd come out to get her phone. Like, I mean, that's the kind of thing I do. Like, I'm always losing my phone, but I think I'm not like everybody else. I just live in a complete chaos all the time and confusion, but I don't think that's the norm. But at that age, I know that people have their phones with them all the time. Yeah, to be fair, I don't know. That was one thing I thought. She could be sat in that room and just be so freaked out. And there could be just more to this story that they just haven't told us. But because they like to change the story, don't they? But that just makes it all seem less credible that things keep changing. But I just think there's another way that they identified him. And there is something else that I can think of, which could have been a way that it was done. But I don't want to fuel a fire, suggest ideas. And I just don't know. It's all so weird. Anyway, Harsh, continue.
And there's so many things that I struggle with when I read this. And it just makes me think, how many statements in this are just made up. And it's saying, like, how Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms, by approximately 4 a.m.
And the other interesting thing is that, sorry Harsh, is that there's been no mention of where Dylan was that evening, and they don't have to tell us where Dylan was, but it's just strange because I know they're saying where Bethany was because apparently she saw Xana and Ethan, but I just feel like, where was Dylan that evening? I'd really like to know that.
To say that, they would have both had to have been awake up until 4 a.m. to say that. So, again, I struggle. So Bethany Funk then must have been awake till at least 4 a.m. So what we're saying, she literally fell asleep at 4 a.m. The other one's waking up at 4 a.m. because she's hearing noises. Hearing noises. The other one's falling asleep. This just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. And again, maybe I'm reading into it too much. Maybe I've looked at it too much, and it's driving me insane. But for looking at this and reading what they had apparently said in interviews, it just seems like it doesn't make sense to me. It feels like they're either being coerced into specifically sticking to a specific timeline that puts everybody in a specific place at a specific time, but then their own statements don't work out that way. To say you're asleep, then you're woken up, but then you would have had to have been awake in order to know what was going on up to that point, because if you're asleep, then effectively when you wake up at 4, you don't know what's going on. You don't know who's where and who's in what room and what's going on.
All right, I'm going to put the rest of the video, as I don't want to hijack it, and put the rest of the video into the description so that you can watch the whole video if you would like, because he does talk about some other stuff at the beginning as well. And I can confirm that the person that he's talking about in the beginning is indeed Kaylee's uncle, and I have the receipts, but I'm not putting them on YouTube though, because I don't know. I don't know that this guy has got anything to do with it. But one thing I will tell you is that he has a record in Oregon, and where he was living was, and where the grandparents were living. And by the way, Steve Gonsalves's dad died in June 2022, so only a couple of months before. I do find it weird that hasn't come up, to be honest, unless it has and I've missed it. I feel like he's not backward in coming forward. I feel like he might have been like mentioned that, oh, you know, it's a tragedy upon tragedy, you know, that he's already lost his dad, and you know, like the media get hold of stuff like that as well. So they lived in a place called Stevenson, which is in Skarmania, which is basically on just over the Washington border, the Washington side of the Washington-Oregon border. And if you keep driving down, you're going towards Eugene, Oregon. But to be fair, he is not the only person that I've come across who is from that, or is not from that area. He has a criminal record around that sort of area, and in the Oregon area, Lincoln, Oregon. But so let's just check, how near is Lincoln, Oregon? So as you can see, Lincoln is near the coast, south of Portland, southwest of Portland, and Eugene is directly south of Portland. And you can see where Yakima's in Washington, so the border's there somewhere. It doesn't really show where the border is very well there, does it? It doesn't show it at all. But yeah, so if you were to carry on down, Skarmania is somewhere along the border, wherever that is along there. And then you can go down to Eugene. But as I said, there are other people that have got family in Oregon that I've come across that may or may not be relevant. But you know, this is a close family member. Who knows? And I don't actually know if he would have been incarcerated at that time. There was some sort of dispute over whether the charge, it was reduced to manslaughter, basically, from murder. And I don't know if he was Like, usually, if you've got a charge like that, you'd be in jail, but I don't know. So, yeah, that's just a little... Yeah, so you might want to watch Harsh's video, because he talks about this and other things prior to what he's talking about there, about the PCA. So, yeah, that's about all for now, folks. See you later.